Welcome to the Effortless Mindfulness Podcast. I'm Loch Kelly, and here I share talks and deep dialogues with leading experts in the field of meditation, psychology, and neuroscience. Together we'll explore how everyday people like you and me can live an awakened life of clarity and compassion. You'll also find micro meditations at the end of every podcast episode. If you want to try more of these, you can go to lochkelly.org and find the new wellness and meditation app called Mindful Glimpses and try the 2-week free trial. There you'll experience immediate benefits because the love and peace we are all seeking is already here within us and can be accessed anywhere, anytime. And in today's conversation, we're joined by my dear friend and colleague, Adyashanti. This is a deeply meaningful one for me, as this was the last public interview Adyashanti gave before he announced his retirement. I had the good fortune of being asked by Adya to be an authorized teacher affiliated with Open Gates Non-dual tradition 12 years ago, and I cherish the many heartfelt dialogues we had over the years, and I'm happy to invite you to be part of one of these today. For the past 26 years, Adyashanti has been sharing his wisdom and guiding individuals toward a direct realization of their true nature. I feel he has been able to articulate that which is beyond words and yet so essential better than anyone I know. It's an honor and a joy to welcome Adyashanti, one of the great meditation teachers of our time, to this podcast.
I have a question for you, if I can ask you a question. I'm just going to, just as a jumping off point, and I'm actually really interested in what you have to say about this, especially given, I think your particular type of brilliance for me is really coming up with those wonderful, pithy, pointing out instructions that are really, beautifully constructed, right? And so any teacher, we I think hopefully we have those things that kind of really we found help and work for people. And so this is my question underneath all this, and this is something that's a question for me too, that I'm still sort of being with this, and I've seen this power of especially certain kinds of teachings, specifically certain kinds of pointers, can really be powerful in kind of inducing or encouraging awakening in people. And that's wonderful, right? That we don't have this view anymore like it was lifetimes. It wasn't very long before people, even really serious people that were seeking enlightenment, often thought in terms of lifetimes.
Right.
You don't hear that much, at least in the West anymore. And that's a really, really good thing. Here's the other side. Here's the other part of it is I've seen, certainly as a teacher, that there is a real value in having what I call like a real base, let's say. Like I'll put it in athletic terms. Like in athletic terms, because I still am kind of a really endurance athlete, right? Yeah. So when you're in athletic terms, you basically spend 90% of your time riding around or running around basically at a pace that you can talk. That's not very hard, right?
Yeah.
The most elite marathon runner in the world, that's what they're doing 85, 90% of the time. Right. 10% of the time, they're doing all the stuff that'll make them really fast, right? But that won't work if they don't have that huge base of lots of hours of easy running. Otherwise, the stuff, it doesn't have much to stand on. And so I've seen it's not a exact correlation, but there is something that does seem to correlate. And of course, there's lots of examples. We can always find examples that do not prove our point. So, of course. But I've seen that the people who often have some sort of real base, whether it was meditation or maybe they really dived into their psychological life, but something that they created a sort of base, a stability that also created a kind of stability physically, mentally, emotionally, even in the ego structure, because spiritual insights can be pretty rattling to an ego sometimes. And so I'd just like to get your thoughts on, because I'm a fan of both, right? Of just going right in there and let's get to the heart of the matter, man. There's a lot more available than you ever thought.
Yeah.
And recognizing, wow, when people pop, when they don't have any background, sometimes it's great, but there's something that's often a little bit more grounded.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's such a important topic to explore, because of the extremes, of too much, join the monastery and do renunciation of family, sexuality, work, and just renounce, and then transform in the middle, just psychological work and more sitting practices and stuff, and then more direct practice, which assumes that the awakeness is here, it's this far away, but it can be on the extreme. It can be made into a thing, or as if it's the whole thing, and this is not real, or it can be a kind of a halfway, just initial kensho, awakening that then the teachers fall into having their psychological content come up and they act out, through aggression, sexuality, violence, money issues, which we've seen, which is that a whole nother topic we could get into at some point. So, but I would say that, that in some ways the sense that I've looked at is that, and you can say who the people are that have come to you, the maturity seems to almost be a heart, like an open-heartedness, like a good-hearted person. Like that's it. They may not have degrees and they may not have meditated ever. There's something much. I could use the word mature, but somehow it's like mature, but like good-hearted. Like
I think good-hearted too. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Those are the ones who kind of get it, and that takes a softening, because they have to be sensitive, to some degree. So they have to have been through it, whether they've had a lot of trauma or they've just, felt like a heart's desire to live a true life for some reason. They followed that.
Yeah.
Not too heady, not too totally emotional. And then, rather than, I found that some people who've done super meditation have a hard time getting the direct.
They sure do. Sometimes they do. Yeah, because they got too much spiritual conditioning going on in the way.
Yeah, and they're just like, wait a minute, are you saying, I've heard that, had them, are you saying that I've wasted 20 years? It can't be like this, right?
Yeah.
So there's some preparation, but I guess the sense is the fullness of it now isn't just like a peak experience. It's like showing each of the waking up from, like we were talking about, waking into the unknown, waking into the not knowing that knows, that then is what is arising as thought, feeling, sensation, your body, and then finding that ground of being that is both embodied and connected to everybody, and that root, that kind of stability of quiet, that not just quiet, the first one, but the that,
like the ground, like the mountains, kind of quiet,
like really the ground. Like I'll ask some people as I go through this, they'll say, so what do you notice? And someone will say ground, and I'll say, what's the ground made of? And they'll go, what? Like, is it made of earth? And they'll go, oh, it's like, and then they'll say it's made of everything. It's made of nothing. It's made of awareness. It's made of being. Yeah. And then that safety, because that's the key that kicks us back into the mind's natural conditioning is I got to be safe. I got to survive. Don't tell me if I'm walking around off the cushion. So that ground that then has this ability to be in a flow state, which is like an athlete.
Yeah.
So in the ground is here.
Right.
There's a dropping from head to heart space. The heart drops to the gut. And then this responsibility, the ability to respond, and then keep going back in the middle of the day. So the strange thing is now find your, whether you're dropping, including, and then connecting, then lose it. No big surprise, just re-recognize and come back and notice when your, trauma comes up, notice when you're triggered by something outside, and just no big surprise. That's welcoming it and almost, always awakeness, always unfolding in the midst of the day. So it's less about, and then following, as you say, following your, then if you want to go running for a lot of time, do yoga for a lot of time, do silent retreats for a lot of time, great.
Right.
That's you. But you don't have to, is my experience. How's that sound?
It sounds fine in the limited context in which you talked about it.
Yeah.
If we get out of that context, and it's all great within that context, but then there's a whole other context.
Okay.
There's that context of people who have, and I have met 100 of them or more. Like this, I'm not talking about a couple every now and then. That people, even when they're approaching awakening, or even when they've had awakenings, especially if they've had massive amounts of trauma in their lives, I find that I meet these people, they come to me, right? They come to me from all over the place, right? And they've had some sort of opening, and it's falling into, and it's eliciting that place like that you mentioned earlier. It goes back to safety, right? Because a lot of awakening is open, unbounded, woo, right? When we're ready for that, it's just okay, great.
Yeah.
But if we have a lot of kind of unconscious associations with that kind of exposure being dangerous, someone can be awake and terrified.
Yeah.
Or something else. So I don't want to suggest, I think trauma's brought a lot of people to awakening, right? So it's not like, I don't want to give a false impression that if you've had that, like if trauma, meant you couldn't have awakening, almost nobody would ever awaken, right? So I'm not suggesting that, but I'm talking the particularly severe kind of cases that it's tricky, and because you can't just use the same sort of, spiritual medicine as other people, right? I mean, someone in that situation would probably really be tremendously helped with some real personal, work in that regard. But I do think in this modern sort of spiritual, and maybe it's always been this way, but where there's lots of stuff that can, either evoke awakening or just get someone in the territory, right? Get in the kind of territory that 98% of that's great, or maybe 90% of it. But there's this whole other part of it that honestly, I don't think is being talked about very much, because I don't think people want to talk about it. Because we don't want to be remembered that everything in life, like getting in your car and going to the grocery store, has dangers to it, right? You might not get home. You probably will, but you might not.
Right.
Spirituality is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It has its dangers. It has its, and I think I'm not saying that makes people, sort of hyper vigilant, but I do think the container needs to be opened up a little bit. And go, there's this whole segment of people that need a certain kind of attention or attentiveness. It's not going to be solved with the, you know what I mean? And you know all this. I know you do, because you were a psychologist for so long. So you had people coming to you all the time, and still do as a teacher, I'm sure.
Yeah, and more and more in these last years, I'm combining psychology, and have been both having trained in an inpatient psych emergency room, 5 years outpatient, working with both, severe, what they call big T trauma, people who've been severely abused, and maybe even worse, complex trauma, which means it was ongoing throughout long periods of time. And then what we call relational trauma, which is basically what most of us have to some degree. So I use this kind of parts-based psychology that started with Jungian, went to Gestalt, went to voice dialogue, went to start with what parts of you are afraid of opening or dropping. So I go both out, but then I also go in. And then I ask, and so we work with those parts, and we just did a, recent big retreat. And, that's the first part of the introduction, to bring all emotions, all parts are welcome. And there's no bad parts. There's protective parts, and there's the judge, and there's the critic, and there's the shadow parts, or the exiles, and they're all welcome. And let's all, find a way to make them feel safe enough to just taste, and then find that what they're all looking for, even the angry parts, the terrorized parts, the rageful parts, they're looking for love. They're looking for what this is in its wholeness, not in its first step of, which can be close to dissociation or depersonalization, but making that distinction, and then really bringing those things together, I think is my next kind of way of ancient wisdom and modern psychology, which you kind of do intuitively anyhow.
I kind of do it intuitively. But I also brought it up because I know you do some really good work in that area, and like I said, I just think it's an area that just needs more acknowledgement. Total, you're acknowledging it, I'm acknowledging it, but just because then people can, I think then, like you said, someone can come to your, say, a retreat, and you're kind of talking about this stuff, and people start to realize, like, oh, all of me gets to come to the party, right? All of me gets to come, really? Like, and here's how it can come to the party, and it's probably scared. So here's how we can, you know what I mean? Keep it, and those kind of things. If all that's just, there's a lot of people, there's plenty of people that just don't need any of that, but there's a lot of people that do, and I think it's just really lovely, even just to have it conceptually sort of, acknowledged, that this.
And to develop, and that's kind of just like I love reverse engineering and combining and creating these fun ways to kind of get to wholeness and trust wholeness, but not deny the the hurt and the trauma and the conditioning that is just out of balance, and say, okay, well, you're out of balance, but it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. What is that Zen quote, that you're perfect just the way you are, and you could use a little improvement?
Yeah, that was Suzuki Roshi's. He had like, everything's totally perfect, and it can use a little improvement. It's one of those things that makes perfect sense until you try to think about it too much, right? So it's that intuitive. I love that. Yeah.
So I think that's you're right. I think that's the growing edge of this work, and certainly there's a lot of in the culture, trauma has become the much more out of the closet. It's much more in
out of the closet,
being acknowledged, being focused on. Now, I also see what I call, there's what's called the spiritual bypass, where you go to the spirit, but then I also say there's a psychological underpass. If you only do psychological work like Woody Allen forever and ever, and you never discover the awake consciousness, that's not much better. And then there's the intellectual cul-de-sac, that you get caught in your, So all those little ways that you can get caught and not find that cellular wholeness,
Right.
that
Yeah.
and the support of, the traditions and the psychology, that there are tools, there are techniques, there is a holding space, there is an environment within a retreat or within a group, that can be set up to create a safe
Mhm.
place to do this kind of, and that's, that's kind of a contemporary retreat model,
Yeah. And we're kind of working it out, right? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea of any kind of thing that approached our modern idea of trauma we've had in the past, 60 or 70 years, didn't
Mhm.
exist 200 years ago.
Right.
Eh,
That's right.
You know, they knew that, people would come home from war and they would be, how they would be. There was nothing like a sophisticated understanding that we have now. And I imagine 15 years from now, they'll look at our understanding now and go, how hopelessly antiquated was that? I
Right.
hope, right? So things just keep
Yeah.
progressing. But it's not like we can go back to our traditions, right? And
Right.
find the great solutions
No.
to people's trauma responses. They're
Right.
developed
That's right.
to deal with other parts of the
Yes.
human experiment. And so I
Yes.
think we are kind of developing this,
Yeah.
and it's tricky because it's really easy to have a retreat or not, or an evening or time. It can go easily
Mhm.
become basically public psychological advice, right? Which
Yes.
isn't really
Right.
what you want a spiritual teaching to be. So it can go that way,
Right.
or it can go the other way where it's just like that's just your
Right.
narrative and transcended, and
Right.
it seems
Right.
like there's something in the middle where we
Yes.
don't just spirituality just doesn't become another form of psychology,
No,
which
that's right.
we need psychology, but we don't want to
Right.
mistake that they're kind of different aims, but they're always interacting and crisscrossing. But I
Yes.
think it's a kind of an interesting time to be a teacher because we're trying to
Yeah.
bring threads together in ways that
Mhm.
are, we don't have the templates that are set in stone. We're
No, that's
discovering
right.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and using that science, to your point, one of the studies that has been done recently by a colleague of mine named Willoughby Britton from Brown, she calls it the Dark Night of the Soul experiment.
Mhm.
But what it was is she studied over 1,000 people who did their first 5-day Vipassana retreats,
Yeah.
and in a classical way. And what she found is 40% of them had almost get flooded by their unconscious
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
Because if we just do the first part of waking up in its 1, 2, and we stop at 3, we start with watching our breath, then we go up to the mindful witness and watch thoughts, feelings, and sensations, realize, there's no solid self. It's only thoughts, and I'm not my thoughts. Then you've deconstructed the ego, but you've also deconstructed the ego defenses, and
Right.
you haven't
Right.
recognized a new operating system of awake awareness. So for me,
Right.
introducing the scared parts first, then introducing
Yeah.
the solution as the next step, then coming back to welcome all parts and all emotions,
Yeah.
because now you have the ground.
Right. Now you got the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you for just explaining that and exploring that a little bit with me, because I think it is I'm kind of ambiguous in the sense of how much attention to give to all these different realms, because the greater the suffering, the more attention it generally needs, right? And every spiritual teacher I've ever met, I've ever talked about, kind of they're dealing with the same equation, sort of like, okay, how much attention do I give in my teaching to that, whatever we want to call the human conflicted material, and how much do I give to, right, the waking up, that whole domain? Because of course they can't be, you try to separate them, good luck. Your students will not allow you to do that in the end. And, at times I sit around going, okay, I know that it can easily become this one thing. And,
Yes.
How much attention do you give in certain areas is
and how much,
becomes a
and how
significant question.
and how they come together. So,
And how they come
what
together.
what is the relationship? Because that's almost the key is, and certainly some people, psychotherapists, can mostly focus on doing psychotherapy, psychology, and bring in some awake consciousness as the healer. And then spiritual teachers can do mostly spiritual work and bring in.
Right.
But ultimately, people themselves, or there's some movement of that when you find the ground, it sees that awakening, that next awakening of, what people are saying, all is one, or interdependence, or non-fear, non-worry, non-shame ground that is dancing emptiness, as you call it. That is the truth. That is when you reach that stage of awakening, that's kind of the waking up from, the waking to, the waking as, and then that ground that just goes, rah, wow, this is the way it is. And then there's just like, oh, So that's the hope of us unfolding, and many people play parts in that, like the car mechanic does that, and then different talents,
which I think is sort of in a certain sense the ideal, right? Because people are going to people in their area of expertise.
That's right.
And then there are spiritual teachers that have broader range of expertise in terms of education and experience, like you bring psychology to the table and all those things. But in general, I think we've gotten to this place where I find a lot of people coming often into spirituality almost like spirituality is a sort of a psychological version of, remember the Ginsu knife? The knife that would do everything, right? You could fish with it, and it would have everything. That the spiritual teacher is kind of like that for your psyche. When in general, they're not. We're specialized in certain areas, and that's there. Maybe the trauma specialized there, and the person. Hopefully, a spiritual teacher has some base of knowledge in their whole psychological development. They'll have to, if they're a good teacher, they've worked through a lot of their own stuff. Anyway, but that was just a reflection of mine that I think it's good. I tell people this all the time. Sometimes if they come up with something, and I'll go, if I really think that they'll need, I'll go, I think you would really be helped with somebody who really specializes in that. That can be there with you through the whole thing. That's somebody else, I would go, I think, maybe you can do it in the context of what we're doing here. But just to be able to make those, not just teachers, but the people themselves, right? Each of us themselves go, what do I need? Oh, that seems to be like the awakening person, and that's a good psychologist, and that one's, they might help me with my body, if I need that. And I always think if you're gonna really engage in something within any kind of, higher consciousness, evolutionary thing within yourself, go to the pursue expertise. Right? In whatever you're dealing with, find the expert, find expertise. Because otherwise you sit around meditating for 20 years and you're still, you're freaked out about something that happened when you were 15, but only because you were never encouraged how to deal with that, except just meditate and let it go.
Right. Yeah, because that can be a, spiritually zapping it away, that then it comes back.
If you can let it go and it doesn't come back, great. And a lot of things are like that, right?
Yeah, some things are like that. Others need a little love. They need a little love. So they'll come back until you love them, and not say, ooh, you're the part I don't like. It's like,
Right.
so go away. Let me. It's like, no, you're trying to get love. You're trying
Yeah.
to help. Even the inner critic
Yeah.
is trying to help you be safe. So
Yeah.
once you realize, well, thank you for all your help, because what? Like,
Thank you for your efforts.
thanks for your effort to really,
Yeah.
you don't have to do that. You can be part of the team, but you don't have to be the lead
Right.
for discriminating wisdom anymore.
Right.
We got a different upgraded system. So why don't you just come on board and semi-retire?
Right.
Go
Play your natural role, whatever.
Go play your natural role.
You don't have to like dominate the whole party.
That's right.
Yeah, but see, something like as simple as that, Locke, like what you said.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't say that to you,
yes, that's right.
You can spin your wheels for the rest of your life in a spiritual pursuit.
Exactly.
And those parts, because my version is very similar to your version. If something is just repeating, it's looking for love. The word I use also is it looking for resolution.
Yeah.
It's not there to torment you, even though it feels like it's tormenting you. It's not there to ruin your life. It's there because it's looking for resolution.
Yeah.
And it needs you.
Yeah.
And if we just called it an illusion,
right,
we never give it what it needs. So that's why I like your context, I think was very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the upgrade from the best, smart, psychological, caring self to the nature of mind or true nature or the unborn that manages everything, or the awareness, loving awareness flow, or the whatever that awake consciousness, whatever you want to call that.
Right.
You call it anything you want, but it's so real. So one example is that I discovered that is working with somebody in a clinic who was had suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And so she was, like, I shouldn't have it. And I said, well, just feel it. Where is it in your body that you feel? She said, right here in my throat. It just feels like, and I said, okay. And now, is there also a part of you that, wants to live, wants to be, live a life of wholeness? And she said, what? Yeah. Oh, there's a part of me here. Is that good? And I said, but then the next thing was, I said, well, who's aware of both those parts?
Yep.
And she literally like opened up, and then she said, well, me. And then she just started crying, and then like, and the relief, of this conflict,
right,
of this part that couldn't take it anymore. Just like, I got to kill myself because I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
It's too painful.
Yeah.
And then the part that's trying to like, I want to live, just stop being suicidal.
Right.
It's like, well, who's aware of both of those?
Right.
And then it's like, well, I am, like I meaning
popped right out of the context, right? That it was caught in.
And into this, which was like, for this person, hasn't always, I've tried that with others, didn't work as well, but but that person literally, like, their whole face just let go, and they had, the psychiatrist on staff there was like, what did you do? I said, I didn't do anything. I just asked her one question, like,
well, but you did do something really powerful, I think.
Yeah.
It's especially when it comes to, difficulty, challenges, suffering, things like that, is you asked, you inquired in a real way, but in an embodied way, right? Because what do you feel? Where do you feel that? So you're, and I think that's our doorway, right? If interest, inquiry, maybe it comes from us. Maybe if we're just too bowled over, so we got to farm it out, and somebody else can ask us the questions.
Right.
But inquiring into ourselves is such a different orientation than trying to clean it all up or purify it or get rid of this or not get rid of that. It's like bringing that curious inquiry in there. Hey, let's not make this into something that shouldn't be. Let's find out what's actually, why is this presenting, and what kind of attention does it want?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, and then kind of coming back to our first thing of what is awakening, it's
Yeah.
that is such an invisible but palpable, uh, you know, opportunity for people that, that's my motivation. I'm like,
Yeah.
if this is real, if this is true, like I feel, what I got to share this. I got to
Right.
like
Right.
try to say the water's great. Come on in, like I can't just like, and that's, I know that's your motivation too, is that, let's give out, let it flow through. It's not
Right.
mine. It's flowing through me
It's flowing. It's
out, but
sure is.
it's such a relief and if I think of, when I was 20 something
Yeah.
compared to now, it's just
Yeah.
like, that's 5 lifetimes ago.
Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah. It's the pivotal moment of a lifetime.
yeah.
Certainly one of them. It's unmistakable, and I agree with you. It's a wow, is it a game changer?
Yeah.
Because it's going from sort of one reality to another, or what we thought
Yeah.
was reality to another, and doesn't mean that like everything just
No.
magically corrects itself. But boy, do we have the ground
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
encounter what there is.
Yeah.
And
And the strong habit of consciousness, and the smarter we get, and then to realize it's here in the background,
yeah,
and
all
that
the
it
time.
includes everything. It's always here, and just that, how each individual fine tunes to uncover and discover,
Yeah,
and then the shift into identity rather than just an experience,
that's
rather
pivotal,
than just
right?
right.
Right.
Then it's who I am, and then it's how I can like do from being, which is the harder
Yeah.
transition, right?
Mm-hmm. Seems to be because so much of it is kind of unknown. It's
Yeah.
there's an intuitive component to it
Yeah.
that yeah, it's wonderful when that access opens up, because we can find that within ourselves that we can really trust.
Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah.
spontaneously moves without us even sort of, sitting around wondering if we can trust it, because
Yeah.
it's already doing its
Yeah.
thing.
That's right. Yeah. The spontaneous proceed, just trusting the spontaneous unfolding of
Yeah.
that little surrender. It's like a late stage surrender, like
Yeah.
when you,
Yeah. It's the body mind part, right? Like that deeper
yeah,
reality, truth. It doesn't
right,
need any of this stuff. It doesn't need to surrender or let go or
right.
right.
That's right.
But we have these little body minds, and
Those body minds, and
we go,
they want to
oh,
get
okay,
it.
there's the
They
next
want to
thing to
get
let go of.
in the kiddie seat and start thinking they're driving. Right? They're like, I want to drive. I want to
Right.
drive.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, because when you realize you're really not driving, it's so much more relaxing.
Right.
If you think driving on the freeway is hard, just driving, thinking you're at the driving wheel at every moment of life
Yeah.
is
Oh my God. It's
that's pretty
exhausting.
challenging. The more conscious we are, the more there is to discover.
Exactly. And it just kind of like you go along, the floor drops out, and then you go like, wow, that's amazing. And then you go along, and then the top pops off, and you go like, wow, I
Yeah.
was looking at the floor, and then it just becomes so precious, so intimately loving, like the universe is so ultimately it's about love. It's not about awareness or awakening, or it's like, it's just this, like, you got to be kidding me. This is just all love, and how to include this 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 kooky imperfect human instrument in all
and
that,
that's
and
part of the
other,
love, isn't it?
it is.
As you can kind of fall in love with it, with all of its quirkiness and its little hang-ups or whatever, and yet it's like, oh, what a sweetheart, it's
Yeah, that's right.
And it
So it's
includes
like,
us in the human family. It keeps us from getting too big
yes,
for our britches, I think,
yeah, which is so important, that the part of the love is that, natural humility, which,
Yeah.
is, rather than
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I've become a butterfly, I'm different than everyone else. It's like, oh, now we're the same. And then you just see it in
I'm glad
everyone.
you
Yeah.
said that. I'm glad you said that because I remember that butterfly phase, right? When you go
Yeah,
through
yeah,
that and you feel very apart from
yeah.
humanity and all that. And then it's really nice when the butterfly lands and you
Right,
come into that, oh, just like everybody else
right.
part of it.
Yeah,
And
just like,
that's,
and
it's
just
funny how
same,
that
yeah.
ends up to be so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
same, even with the differences and all the uniqueness.
Hmm.
But wow, we're just, there isn't a higher and lower.
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
and that's I think that to me feels very intimate and very
Hmm.
close and very loving. Like there's nothing
Hmm.
abstract about that to me. It feels very, very
Yeah,
intimate. And in this
yeah,
world,
very,
I think what almost everybody I meet, whether they call it awakening or whatever they're
yeah,
looking for,
yeah,
or restoring a 56 Chevy or whatever they're doing, pretty much what's underneath so much of it is a desire for real authentic connection
yeah, that's right.
with
Yeah, and
themselves,
that's
with
the,
life, with each other, with
yeah,
something that might be sacred. It seems to be such
yeah,
a big part of it.
that feeling of disconnection or dissatisfaction, and then that
Yeah,
connection, which is not even the connection that we thought we were looking for when we had it in different aspects.
right.
It just is already connected, like it just comes from, I don't have to do anything to be. And then the
Right.
disconnected parts come up, and you say, all right, sweetheart, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks
That's
for showing.
yes.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
Thanks for showing up. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
You're
welcome you
part of the,
in.
yeah, that's right. You're part of the team. You're different. It's okay. I'm listening. What do you got to
Yeah.
say? What do you need? Yeah. And then that doesn't collapse you back, because that's one
Right.
of the major moves people feel is as
Mhm.
if it's expanded and contracted, but then ultimately it's really background,
Right.
all
It's
ground.
always there. Yeah. But I think that inclusion,
Yeah.
we can transcend things by means of inclusion. It's a different kind of
Right.
transcendence.
Right.
It's like
Right.
almost like an embodied transcendence or something through
Yes.
inclusion
Yeah.
rather than exclusion. And
Yeah.
spiritually, we're so used to transcending through exclusion. And
Yes.
what you're describing here and what I try to engender is a kind of, I'm fine with transcending, but let's do it in
Hmm.
a really embodied way. So
Yeah.
everything's welcomed. And then it's not, things don't feel like they got to stand out at the party.
Hmm.
You ever get
Right.
that person
Right.
at the party and they have to be the center of attention all the time?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those are the parts of ourselves that are not necessarily looking for like narcissistic attention, but
Right.
inclusion.
It's so beautiful to connect with you again and
Thank you, Locke.
kind of be able to sit together and invite others into our conversation that we'd often have around the kitchen table for.
Yes.
We cut it short to, like, only a couple hours here. We'd go until, like,
For us, that's
food.
short. Yeah.
Is there food? Yeah. Do we need eating is good? Yeah, right. Let's make some soup, or something.
That'll be our next interview or discussion. It'll be like the 8 hour, and we'll include breakfast and lunch and maybe dinner if we're really on a roll. But it's
Yeah,
delightful connecting with you, Locke,
yeah,
and always fun to chat with you. See
yeah,
what you're up to, see what the new developments in your teaching are, because
yeah,
you always seem to be diving into
yeah.
coming up with the most concise, powerful ways of pointing
Mm.
that you can. So it's always nice to connect and see what's cooking in you, my friend. And it's still cooking in you. So that's really nice to see.
Still cooking.
It really
Yeah, it's
is.
so wonderful to kind of welcome you back and say what a gift you are, because you speak it comes through you in paragraphs, like you speak it and it dances out of you, So it's
For better or
it's a
worse.
good, for better for worse.
Sometime
But
in novels.
sometimes, right, in long novels, you're like, Right. Was there, oh, the time's up, an hour and a half. Was that one question? Did we get to the second question? No.
Right. Did we get to a question yet? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the exploration that's so delightful. And I love to be involved in something where there is really no end to the exploration. There's an end to the seeking, but the exploration, the new vistas around every corner it's just I think one of the more beautiful things about all of this.
Okay, Adya, thanks so much. And
thank you, my friend.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be together. May it be of some benefit.
To begin, sit in a comfortable way and simply close your eyes while allowing your awareness to remain open. Take a couple of slow, easy breaths at your own pace. And feel your breath moving within your body. Feel your whole body from within while noticing that your breathing is happening by itself. Be easy and comfortable and relax while remaining alert. And take a moment to see what is here now. Notice how your body is feeling. Is it uncomfortable, comfortable, agitated, relaxed, tired, in pain, or neutral? Just be aware of how your body's feeling without trying to change it. Just be aware of it as it is. Now, simply shift to be aware of what is feeling the sensations in your body. Feel the awareness in which these sensations are happening. Rather than being aware of sensations, feel the space and the awareness that is aware of them. Shift from the content to the context. Notice that the awareness is not tired, not in pain, not agitated or anxious. Feel how this awareness is both all around and within your body. Feel the relationship from this awareness to sensations and thoughts without blending with the content. Now notice the activity of your mind and thoughts. Just be aware of whether your thoughts are agitated, calm, tired, emotional, anxious, or neutral. Without changing anything at all, allow your mind and thoughts to be as they are. Now shift to notice the space in which thoughts are moving. Be interested in the awareness what is aware of the thoughts. Feel the awareness that is wordlessly aware. Notice how awareness allows your mind to be as it is. Begin to notice that awake awareness is alert, clear, and non-judgmental. And feel that this awareness is not tired or anxious and has never been in pain. Notice the awareness is all around and inherent within your body and within your mind, arising as your sensations and thoughts. Notice the sounds that you're hearing, and then shift to notice the awareness of the next sound. Does the awareness have a location or a size? Just curiously inquire, am I aware of this spacious awareness? Or what's it like when I'm aware from this spacious awareness as this spacious awareness, which is welcoming thoughts, feelings, and sensations? And now curiously notice, is this awareness like the sky? Or is it more like the ocean, arising as energy, sensation, your body, and the world? Notice the awareness that doesn't come and go, arising as the content which changes moment to moment. Naturally welcoming without effort. And as we end this practice, you can feel all your senses open as you open your eyes and notice what it's like to see from this more awareness-based open mind. Thanks for listening. This podcast is offered freely. And instead of asking for a donation, I'd like to see if we can mutually support each other by asking you to try the free trial of our new app, Mindful Glimpses. You'll find it in the App Store or at lochkelly.org. There, we offer daily micro-meditations and in-depth programs to support a new way of awakening to to the love and clarity that are already within you.